The massive space station hung in the darkness like a silver jewel. Proxima Station was the heart of the Galactic Council, where representatives from hundreds of worlds came to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Today, the main hall buzzed with tension as delegates whispered among themselves. Ambassador Tae-ho walked through the corridors with steady steps. His black suit was simple compared to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the alien delegates around him. Some had scales that shimmered like oil. Others had too many eyes or limbs that bent in wrong directions. After 3 years representing Earth, Tae-ho had learned not to stare. The main chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in circles that rose up like steps. Each species had their own section with special air, temperature, or gravity controls. The human section was small, just 5 seats in a galaxy of thousands. Tae-ho took his place and waited. Chancellor Velnash slithered to the center podium. The Vorthak leader was 12 feet long, with purple scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. When he spoke, his voice filled the chamber through translation devices. "The Galactic Council calls this emergency session to order," Velnash announced. "Today we address the human problem." Tae-ho felt hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him, but he kept his face calm. He had expected this day would come. For 50 years, humans have spread across the galaxy like a disease. Velnash continued. They have claimed 12 worlds, built massive fleets, and consumed resources at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, peaceful species like the Kethalari remain homeless after their son died. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Kethalari delegation, tall, thin beings with silver skin, nodded sadly from their temporary seats. "The time has come for action," Velnash said. "The Council has voted. Humanity must evacuate Earth and their colony worlds within one standard solar cycle. These worlds will be given to more deserving species who will use them wisely." The chamber erupted in cheers and clicking sounds that Tae-ho had learned meant approval from various species. He sat quietly, his hands folded in his lap. Ambassador Zektar of the insect-like Hive Queens stood up. "The humans are young and violent. They conquered their own world through endless wars. They cannot be trusted with the precious gift of habitable planets." More agreement echoed through the hall. Representative Glicks of the energy beings added, "Human expansion threatens galactic peace. They build weapons instead of art, ships instead of gardens. The galaxy will be safer without their influence." Tae-ho waited for the noise to die down before standing. The chamber fell silent as all attention focused on the lone human representative. "Honorable Chancellor," Tae-ho said, his voice steady and calm. "May I understand the terms correctly? You want all humans to leave Earth and our colonies within 1 year?" "Correct," Velnash replied. "You may take your ships and find new homes in the outer rim beyond civilized space. And if we refuse?" The Chancellor's yellow eyes gleamed. "Then the combined fleets of the Galactic Council will remove you by force. We command over 2 million warships from 1,000 worlds. Your entire fleet numbers perhaps a few hundred vessels." Tae-ho nodded slowly, as if considering this information carefully. Around the chamber, delegates leaned forward to hear his response. Some expected him to beg for mercy. Others thought he might threaten or rage against the injustice. Instead, Tae-ho smiled. It was not a big smile, just a small curve of his lips that somehow reached his eyes. The expression confused many of the aliens present. The Vorthak had no concept of smiling, and most other species used different facial expressions to show emotion. I will need to consult with my government on Earth, Tejo said politely. How much time do I have to bring back our answer? Velnash seemed surprised by the calm response. 30 standard days, not 1 day more. That is very generous, Chancellor. Thank you. Tejo bowed slightly, still wearing that mysterious smile. As he turned to leave, confused whispers followed him. The delegates had expected anger, fear, or desperate bargaining. The humans' calm acceptance and strange facial expression left them uncertain. In the corridor outside, Ambassador Zektar caught up with Tejo. The insect-like being's compound eyes reflected the station's lights. Human, she clicked in her harsh voice. Your species faces extinction, yet you smile. Are you perhaps mentally damaged? Tejo stopped walking and turned to face her. Not damaged, honored ambassador. Just hopeful. Hopeful? Zektar's antennae twitched with confusion. Your fleet cannot stand against the might of the Council. Your planets will be taken. Your people will be scattered to the void. What hope can you possibly have? Tejo's smile grew slightly wider. You know, Ambassador, humans have faced extinction many times in our history. Ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. Each time others counted us out. Each time they were wrong. This is different, Zektar insisted. You face the combined military might of the galaxy. Yes, Tejo agreed. It should be interesting. With that, he walked away, leaving the confused insect ambassador behind. News of the ultimatum spread quickly through the station. In the diplomatic quarters, representatives from various species discussed the human response. Most agreed that Tejo's behavior was strange, even for a human. Perhaps they will simply comply, suggested the crystalline ambassador Thexalon. Humans are known to be practical when faced with impossible odds. No, disagreed General Vextar, of the warrior Craxi. I have studied human military history. They do not surrender easily, even when they should. In his private quarters, Tejo sat at his desk and activated a secure communication link to Earth. The message would take 3 days to reach home, but it would get there. Earth Command, this is Ambassador Tejo, he said into the recorder. The Council has delivered their ultimatum. We have 30 days to provide an answer. I told them I would consult with our government, but I think we both know what that answer will be. He paused, looking out the window at the vast space station around him. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all convinced that humanity would bow to their demands. Begin Phase 1 immediately, he continued. And please give President So Young my regards. Tell her that the galaxy is about to learn something important about the human spirit. Tejo ended the recording and leaned back in his chair. Outside his window, alien ships moved through space like schools of fish. They were beautiful in their own way, these vessels from distant worlds. Soon, many of them would be coming to Earth. The thought made him smile again. 3 days later, his message reached Earth and the real preparations began. The Galactic Council thought they were giving humanity 30 days to surrender. They had no idea they were actually giving Earth 30 days to finish the most ambitious military project in human history. In the depths of space, hidden listening, posts recorded Tejo's transmission and began their own preparations. Across human space, sleeper agents who had waited years for this moment received their activation codes. The Council had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn. And somewhere, in the back of his mind, Tejo could almost hear the sound of Earth laughing. The emergency alert reached every corner of Earth within minutes. In government buildings, military bases, and research facilities around the world, secure communication systems came alive with urgent messages. The call that humanity had been preparing for had finally come. President So-Young stood in the war room deep beneath New Geneva, surrounded by screens showing data from across human space. The room buzzed with activity as staff members analyzed the situation and prepared briefings. At 55, So-Young had led Earth through first contact with alien life and the delicate early years of galactic diplomacy. Now she faced the greatest challenge in human history. The message from Ambassador Tejo is confirmed, reported Communications Director Hayrim. The Galactic Council demands complete evacuation of all human worlds within 1 year. Defense Minister Yun Ji pulled up holographic displays showing the galaxy's military forces. Our intelligence estimates are accurate. The Council commands approximately 2 million warships across member species. They could deploy at least 50,000 vessels against us without weakening their home defenses. General Haiyan Wu, head of Earth's military, studied the numbers with calm eyes. At 60, he had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Our active fleet consists of 800 ships, with another 300 in various stages of construction. In a straight fight, we would last perhaps 6 hours. Murmurs of concern rippled through the room, but President So-Young remained calm. She had known these numbers for years. Everyone in this room had known them. "What about the colonies?" asked Secretary Min-jae. "Our 12 colony worlds have a combined fleet of perhaps 200 ships," Hyun-woo replied. "Most are cargo vessels or system patrol craft. Only New Seoul and New Tokyo have anything resembling proper warships. The mathematics were brutal and simple. Humanity faced odds of nearly 2,000 to 1. Any conventional military planner would recommend immediate surrender, but humanity had stopped thinking conventionally long ago. Dr. Ji-hoon, President So-Young called to a man in the corner who had been quietly reviewing data on his tablet. "Please brief everyone on Project Prometheus." Dr. Ji-hoon was 42 years old, thin and serious-looking behind wire-frame glasses. He had spent the last 15 years working on humanity's most classified project. When he stood to address the room, his voice was steady despite the enormous pressure. "3 days ago, I received authorization to brief the full cabinet on Prometheus," he began. "For security reasons, even most of you have only known pieces of the project. It's time you saw the complete picture." The room's main screen changed to show a detailed map of the solar system. But this was not the solar system that appeared in any public database. This version showed thousands of installations scattered throughout space, on asteroids, moons, and artificial platforms. 15 years ago, we realized that humanity's survival depended on turning our entire solar system into a fortress, Ji-hoon explained. Not just building defensive stations, but weaponizing everything. The display zoomed in on the asteroid belt. What had appeared to be normal asteroids were revealed as massive weapons platforms, their surfaces covered with sensors and gun emplacements. "Every asteroid larger than 5 kilometers has been converted into a weapons platform," Ji-hoon continued. "We have been mining them for resources while secretly building defensive systems inside. From space, they look exactly like natural asteroids." Secretary Min-jae stared at the display in shock. "How did we keep this secret from alien observers?" Intelligence Director Woo Jin spoke up from his seat. "Carefully. All work was done using robotic mining ships that appeared to be standard resource extraction. The actual construction happened inside the asteroids, invisible to outside scanners. We also fed false information to alien intelligence services, making our mining operations appear less efficient than they actually were. The display shifted to show Mars. The red planet's surface was dotted with thousands of installations. Mars has been converted into a massive weapons platform, Ji-hoon explained. Every one of our terraforming installations contains hidden military systems. What appear to be atmospheric processors are actually planetary defense cannons. The room fell silent as the full scale of the project became clear. President So-young watched her cabinet members absorb the information. Many of them were seeing the complete picture for the first time. The moon has been hollowed out and turned into a command center and weapons platform, Ji-hoon continued. Jupiter's moons are now mobile weapons platforms that can change orbit when needed. Even Earth itself has been fortified. The display showed Earth, and suddenly the planet's surface was covered with markers indicating defensive installations. Major cities, rural areas, ocean platforms, everywhere humans lived, weapons waited. But the most important part of Prometheus is not the weapons, Ji-hoon said quietly. It's the ships. A new image appeared. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the current human fleet. They were sleek and deadly looking, clearly built for war. For the past 10 years, we have been building a secret fleet, Ji-hoon explained. These ships were constructed in hidden shipyards throughout the outer system. They are faster, more heavily armed, and more advanced than anything the galactic powers possess. Defense Minister Yoon-ji leaned forward. How many ships? 5,000 combat. Vessels of various classes, Ji-hoon replied. Plus support ships, mobile bases, and specialized craft, all hidden in the outer system, waiting. The silence in the room was complete. Outside, normal life continued across Earth. People went to work, children attended school, families had dinner together. None of them knew that their world had been secretly transformed into the most powerful fortress in galactic history. The evacuation ships the aliens have been tracking? Asked General Hyun-woo. Part of the deception. Intelligence. Director Woo Jin confirmed. Those ships are real and they are leaving the system, but they're not evacuation vessels. They're weapons platforms disguised as colony ships. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. President So-young stood and walked to the center of the room. 15 years ago, when we first made contact with galactic civilization, we realized something important. The galaxy sees us as young and weak. They think we're primitive because we still fight wars on our own planet. They don't understand that our wars made us stronger. She looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Every species in the galaxy achieved peace by becoming weak. They learned to avoid conflict, to submit to stronger powers, to survive by not fighting back. They forgot how to defend themselves. The president activated another display showing human history. Images of great battles, technological breakthroughs born from necessity. The long struggle to master their own world. Humans never forgot how to fight because we never had the luxury of peace, she continued. Every advance in our technology, every step in our development, came from overcoming challenges that would have destroyed weaker species. Dr. Ji-hoon cleared his throat. Madam President, there is one more aspect of Prometheus that you should know about. The Council thinks our colonies are weakly defended. They're not wrong, but that's intentional. The display showed the 12 human colony worlds. Each appeared to have minimal defenses, exactly as alien intelligence reported. Our colonies are bait, Ji-hoon explained. When the Council attacks, they'll expect easy victories. What they'll find instead are hidden weapons, and populations that have been preparing for this war since the day they arrived. President So-Young nodded grimly. Every human colonist is also a soldier. Every farm is a fortress. Every city is a weapons depot. The aliens see agricultural worlds and research stations. We see training grounds for the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as the cabinet discussed the implications. After 15 years of careful preparation, humanity was ready for war on a scale the galaxy had never seen. "What are our orders, Madam President?" asked General Hyunwoo. So-Young smiled, the same mysterious expression that had confused the aliens when Taeho used it. "Send a message to Ambassador Taeho. Tell him to inform the Galactic Council that Earth respectfully declines their generous offer." She paused, looking out at the people who would lead humanity through its greatest test, "and activate all Prometheus assets. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The news of humanity's refusal spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders gathered in emergency sessions to discuss the unthinkable. A junior species had dared to defy the Galactic Council. Admiral Zixthar of the Nexari crystalline fleet stood in the command center of the massive war station Eternal Light. Around him, holographic displays showed ships gathering from across the galaxy. The largest military force in galactic history was assembling, and he had been chosen to lead it. Zixthar was ancient by human standards, over 300 years old. His crystalline body refracted light in beautiful patterns, and his mind could process tactical information faster than any organic brain. He had commanded fleets in the last great galactic war 50 years ago, when the Council had crushed the rebellion of the Seven Suns. That conflict had lasted 3 days. "Admiral," his aide Krendex reported, "the final fleet counts are in. 52,000 warships from 19 species. The Vorthak contribute 8,000 vessels, the Kraxi 7,000, the Hive Queen 6,000. Zixthar studied the numbers with satisfaction. Each ship represented overwhelming firepower. The smallest vessels in his fleet carried enough weapons to devastate a planet. The largest could crack moons. "And human forces?" he asked. "Intelligence estimates remain unchanged. Approximately 1,000 ships total across all their worlds. Most are cargo vessels or light patrol craft. Perhaps 50 vessels could be considered true warships." The Admiral's crystalline form shifted colors, a sign of amusement among his people. 50 ships against 50,000. The humans must be mad. General Vextar of the Kraxi materialized on the command platform through a holographic projector. The warrior species stood 9 feet tall with thick armor plating and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His voice rumbled with the sound of distant thunder. "Admiral Zixthar, my warriors grow impatient. When do we begin the cleansing of human space?" "Soon, General," Zixthar replied. "Our fleet will be complete within 5 standard days. Then we move on the human home system." Chancellor Velnash appeared on another projector, his serpentine form coiled in what humans would have recognized as smugness. "The galaxy watches, Admiral. Make this swift and decisive. Other young species must learn what happens to those who defy the Council." Across the galaxy, the gathering of the fleet was impossible to hide. On human colony worlds, long-range sensors detected the massive ships moving through space. The images were broadcast back to Earth, where they appeared on news screens around the world. In the underground command center, Commander Minho of Deep Space Reconnaissance reviewed the latest intelligence reports. His job was to watch the aliens and feed them false information about human preparations. It was dangerous work. One mistake could expose Project Prometheus before the trap was ready. The Nexari fleet has reached full strength, he reported, to President So Young. Intelligence suggests they plan to attack Earth directly while sending smaller forces to our colonies. Perfect, the president replied. What about our deception operations? Minho pulled up a star chart showing the movements of human ships over the past month. To alien observers, it looked like chaos. Desperate evacuation efforts and confused military movements. The aliens see exactly what we want them to see, he explained. Massive civilian evacuations from Earth and the colonies. Our military forces appear to be scattered and disorganized. Most importantly, they have no idea about our hidden fleet. On his screens, surveillance reports from alien spies painted a picture of human panic. Cities appeared to be emptying. Spaceports showed constant traffic of ships leaving Earth. Military communications that the aliens intercepted suggested confusion and desperation among human leaders. It was all carefully planned theater, Captain. Da-Yun commanded one of the visible human fleets. 200 ships that would appear to be humanity's last line of defense. Her vessels waited in the outer solar system, broadcasting messages that alien intelligence would intercept and analyze. All ships maintain defensive positions, she announced over open communications that she knew were being monitored. Earth. Command reports that evacuation ships are still departing. We must buy them more time. Her messages painted a picture of brave but doomed defenders, trying to protect helpless civilians. The aliens heard exactly what they expected. A weak species trying desperately to save itself. But Captain Da-Yun's real mission was far more complex. Her ships carried special equipment that would play a crucial role when the battle began. The aliens saw her 200 vessels as humanity's main fleet. They had no idea these ships were just the visible tip of a much larger weapon. Dr. Ji-hun monitored the preparations from his hidden command center inside the moon. Around him, technicians made final adjustments to systems that had been 15 years in the making. Every calculation had to be perfect. Humanity would get only one chance to surprise the galaxy. Asteroid weapons platforms report ready status, announced his aide, Kyung-min. All installations are operating normally and remain undetected. Mars defense grid? Online and ready. The terraforming equipment has been converted successfully. Alien observers still believe they're seeing atmospheric processors. Jupiter system? Mobile weapons platforms are in position. They appear to be normal moons to long-range scans. Ji-hun nodded with satisfaction. The trap was set. When the aliens arrived, they would find what appeared to be a lightly defended solar system with a few desperate ships guarding a weakly fortified planet. The reality would be very different. Intelligence. Director Wu Jin sat in his office reviewing reports from human agents throughout galactic space. These men and women had spent years building cover identities on alien worlds. Most had never been activated, waiting for the day when humanity would need them. That day had come. Agent Song Yi reports from the Vorthak homeworld, his assistant briefed him. Industrial facilities are operating at maximum capacity to support the war effort. Security is focused entirely on external threats. Agent Dong Min on Craxi Prime confirms similar patterns. The warrior caste has deployed most of their forces to the fleet. Home defense is minimal. Wu Jin smiled grimly. The aliens were so confident of victory that they had weakened their own defenses. When the time came, Humanity's hidden agents would be ready to act. On the massive space station where the alien fleet gathered, Admiral Zixthar reviewed the final battle plans. The attack would begin with long-range bombardment of human defensive positions, followed by overwhelming assault waves. His analysts predicted complete victory within hours. "Admiral," reported his intelligence officer, "final scans of the human home system show continued evacuation activity. It appears they are trying to save as many civilians as possible before our arrival." "How noble," Zixthar remarked. "And foolish. There is nowhere in the galaxy they can hide from council justice." The Admiral looked out at his fleet through the station's viewing ports. Thousands of ships stretched as far as the eye could see, representing the combined might of galactic civilization. No force in history had ever stood against such power. As he watched, more ships continued to arrive. Soon, this fleet would move on Earth and end humanity's brief moment in galactic affairs. The humans would be scattered to distant stars, their worlds given to more deserving species. It would be quick, clean, and final. Admiral Zixthar had no way of knowing that hidden among his own fleet were human observation drones, tiny devices that had attached themselves to alien ships during routine port visits. These drones transmitted everything they saw back to Earth, giving humanity perfect intelligence about alien capabilities and plans. He also didn't know that some of the alien crew members aboard council ships were actually human agents with cosmetic modifications. These deep-cover operatives had spent years building their false identities, waiting for this moment. The galaxy's greatest fleet was riddled with human intelligence assets, and no one suspected a thing. As the final preparations began, humanity held its breath and waited. The trap was set, the players were in position, and the stage was ready for the most important battle in galactic history. In 5 days, the alien fleet would arrive at Earth expecting to find a broken, defeated species ready for exile. Instead, they would discover what happened when you threatened humanity's home. The Galactic Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a metal storm. 52,000 warships materialized in formation, their hulls reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. The largest fleet in galactic history had arrived to deliver judgment on humanity. Admiral Zixthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Light, watching sensor displays update with information about the human system. What he saw confirmed everything his intelligence reports had predicted. "Scan results, Commander," he ordered. "Sir, the system appears largely evacuated," reported his tactical officer. "We detect massive ion trails from departing ships. Estimate at least 10,000 vessels have left the system in the past month. Human military forces, approximately 200 ships in defensive formation near the outer planets. No significant orbital fortifications detected around Earth. The planet's surface shows reduced energy signatures consistent with civilian evacuation." Zixthar's crystalline form shifted to show satisfaction. The humans had done exactly what he expected, fled in panic when faced with overwhelming force. The few ships that remained were probably trying to buy time for the last evacuees to escape. General, Vextar's image appeared on the command platform. "Admiral, my warriors request permission to lead the attack. We will make quick work of these human defenders." "Patience, General," Zixthar replied. "First, we offer them one final chance to surrender. It is the civilized way." A communication channel opened to the human fleet. Captain Daon's face appeared on the screen. A young woman with determined eyes and short black hair. Behind her, the bridge of her ship looked cramped and primitive compared to alien technology. This is Admiral Zixthar of the Galactic Council. Fleet, he announced. Captain, you face impossible odds. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. Captain Da-Yun looked directly into the camera with steady eyes. Admiral, this is Captain Da-Yun of the Earth Defense Force. I am authorized to speak for humanity. She paused, and something that might have been a smile crossed her face. We respectfully decline your offer. Captain, you have 200 ships against 50,000. This is not bravery, it is suicide. Maybe, Da-Un replied, but it's our choice to make. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Zixthar staring at a blank screen. He had seen many species face defeat, but something about the human captain's expression puzzled him. She had shown no fear, no desperation. If anything, she had seemed almost eager. All fleet units prepare for attack, he ordered. Long-range bombardment first, then assault waves. Make it quick. Across the vast fleet, weapons systems came online. Energy cannons that could shatter mountains charged with power. Missile systems. Loaded projectiles that could crack continents. The combined firepower of the galactic fleet could sterilize a dozen worlds. Captain Da-Yun watched the alien preparations from her command bridge. Around her, 200 human ships waited in formation. To the aliens, they looked like a pitiful last stand. The reality was very different. Ma'am, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Jun Seo, all stealth systems are active. The aliens still can't detect our real assets. Prometheus Command? Standing by on all channels. Dr. Ji-hun reports that all systems are ready for activation. Dae-ah nodded. Her ships were equipped with the most advanced stealth technology humanity had ever developed. What the aliens saw were simple patrol craft and converted cargo ships. What they couldn't see were the real weapons hidden throughout the solar system. Signal from Admiral Zixthar, Jun Seo reported. He's demanding final surrender. Tell the Admiral that Earth stands ready to defend itself, Da-Un replied, and remind him that humans don't surrender easily. The message was transmitted across space to the alien fleet. Admiral Zixthar received it with frustration. He had hoped to end this without bloodshed, but the humans seemed determined to die for their worthless planet. All units, commence bombardment, he ordered. The first wave of alien fire lit up space like a second sun. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human fleet. The weapons were precisely targeted to disable rather than destroy. The Council wanted prisoners for questioning. What happened next shocked every alien in the fleet. The human ships didn't try to dodge or defend themselves. Instead, they seemed to shimmer and fade, becoming translucent. The massive bombardment passed harmlessly through them as if they were ghosts. "What is happening?" Admiral Zixthar demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook with confusion. "Sir, the human ships appear to be holographic projections. We're hitting nothing but empty space. Impossible! Our sensors detected solid matter. Sir, I'm showing massive energy spikes throughout the system. Something is activating." Before Admiral Zixthar could respond, space around his fleet exploded into motion. What had appeared to be empty asteroids suddenly bristled with weapons. Installations that had looked like natural formations revealed themselves as massive defense platforms. The asteroid belt lit up like a string of deadly pearls as hundreds of hidden weapons platforms came online. Each one was the size of a small moon, packed with weapons that made alien technology look primitive. "Emergency evasive action!" Zixthar shouted, but it was too late. The first salvo from the asteroid defenses tore through the alien formation like a sword through paper. Ships that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries were reduced to scrap metal in seconds. The weapons humanity had spent 15 years developing were beyond anything the galaxy had seen. General Vextar's flagship took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth. The proud Craxi warrior died without knowing what had killed him, but the asteroids were just the beginning. Mars suddenly revealed its true nature as massive weapons emplacements rose from the planet's surface. What the aliens had thought were terraforming installations were actually the largest guns ever built. The red planet opened fire with weapons that could be seen from the inner system. "Sir!" screamed the tactical officer. "The entire solar system is armed. Every asteroid, every moon, every planet." Admiral Zixthar watched in horror as his magnificent fleet was torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist. Ships exploded around him as humanity revealed the true scope of their preparations. Jupiter's moons began to move, revealing themselves as mobile weapons platforms. Saturn's rings turned out to be camouflaged defense stations. Even the small, inner planets showed energy signatures as hidden weapons came online. "This is impossible," Zixthar whispered. "No species has ever militarized an entire star system." His communications officer managed to get a signal through the chaos. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth." President So-Young's face appeared on the main screen. She spoke from what appeared to be an office, calm and composed, despite the battle raging around her planet. "Admiral Zixthar," she said politely, "I am President So-Young of Earth. I believe you came here to remove humanity from our home." "How?" was all Zixthar could manage to say. "How is this possible?" 15 years of preparation, Admiral. 15 years of building, planning, and waiting for someone to threaten our world. The president's expression was pleasant, almost friendly. "You see, the galaxy made a mistake about humanity. You thought we were weak because we fight among ourselves. You didn't realize that our conflicts made us stronger." Another wave of human weapons fire swept through the alien fleet. Thousands more ships died as the hidden defenses revealed their full power. "Every human world has been preparing for this day," President So-Young continued. "Every colony, every station, every ship. We've been ready for you since the day we first met galactic civilization." "You cannot defeat the combined might of the galaxy," Zixthar protested. President So-Young smiled, the same mysterious expression that had puzzled aliens throughout this crisis. "Admiral, you're about to learn something important about humanity. We don't just defend our homes, we defend them with everything we have." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zixthar staring at his tactical displays in disbelief. Half his fleet was already gone, destroyed by weapons that weren't supposed to exist. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a trap, and his forces had flown directly into it. But the real surprise was yet to come. Deep in space beyond Jupiter, something vast began to move. The human evacuation ships that had left Earth over the past month were returning. But these weren't refugees. Fleeing in panic, they were warships coming home, and they brought friends. The space beyond Jupiter erupted into blinding light as humanity's hidden fleet emerged from hyperspace. What the aliens had tracked as evacuation ships revealed their true nature: massive weapons platforms disguised as civilian vessels. But these were not alone. Emerging alongside them were thousands of ships that had never appeared on any alien sensor sweep. Captain Dong Hyun commanded the Luna defense grid from his position inside the hollowed-out moon. Through his screens, he watched the alien fleet struggle to comprehend what was happening to them. The crystalline formations that had looked so magnificent just minutes ago were now broken and scattered, their survivors desperately trying to regroup. "All lunar weapon systems online," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Ye Jin. "Targeting. Solutions locked on the remaining alien command ships. Fire at will," Dong Hyun ordered. The moon's hidden surface opened like a flower, revealing weapons that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Beams of pure energy lanced across space, each shot precisely targeted to disable alien command systems. This wasn't about destruction. This was about sending a message. Admiral Zixthar felt his flagship shudder as human weapons found their mark. His crystalline body flickered with panic patterns as he tried to process the impossible situation. The humans hadn't just hidden a few weapons. They had militarized their entire star system. "Damage report!" he shouted over the chaos of his bridge. "Navigation offline, weapons at 30%, life support holding," his aide reported. "Sir, we're detecting massive fleet movements. The human ships that left the system are returning." "How many?" "Sensors are being jammed, but estimate..." "Sir, this can't be right." "What?" "Over 5,000 vessels, Admiral, and they're all armed." Zixthar's form shifted to colors that had no translation in human language, combinations that expressed the crystalline equivalent of terror and disbelief. 5,000 ships. The humans had built a fleet 5 times larger than their entire known military and somehow kept it completely secret. General Haiwan commanded the Earth Surface Defense Network from a bunker deep beneath Seoul. Around her, dozens of technicians coordinated the planet's defenses. What had appeared to be a normal world was revealing itself as the most heavily fortified planet in galactic history. "Mountain artillery systems report ready," announced her tactical coordinator, Major Su Jin. "Urban defense grids are online. Ocean platforms are armed and tracking targets." Through her screens, Haiwan could see the alien fleet breaking apart under the combined assault from asteroids, moons, and planets. But this was only the beginning. Earth itself was about to join. "The battle. All surface installations, this is Earth Defense Command," she broadcast. "Begin revelation protocol." Across Earth's surface, the ground began to open. In major cities, what had appeared to be normal buildings revealed hidden weapon systems. Mountains split apart to expose massive gun emplacements. Ocean platforms that had looked like research stations bristled with advanced weaponry. The orbital defenses that alien scouts had mapped were real, but they were just the visible layer. Beneath Earth's surface lay a weapons network that could defend against any conceivable attack. Commander Min-ho watched the alien confusion from his position aboard one of the returning evacuation ships. The massive vessel was actually a mobile weapons platform, one of hundreds that had been positioned throughout the outer system while disguised as fleeing civilians. "Sir," reported his navigation officer, Ensign Boram, "we're in position for the final phase. All stealth systems are ready to disengage." "Do it," Min-ho ordered. "Let them see what humanity really built." Across the solar system, thousands of hidden installations dropped their camouflage simultaneously. Asteroids revealed themselves as battle stations. Cargo ships shed their false hulls to show advanced warships underneath. Mining platforms exposed weapon systems that could crack planets. The scope of humanity's deception became clear. For 15 years, every human activity in space had been cover for the largest military buildup in galactic history. Every mining operation had been a weapons installation. Every civilian ship had been a disguised warship. Every colony had been a fortress. Dr. Ji-hoon monitored the revelation from his command center. Around him, screens showed the success of Project Prometheus, beyond even his most optimistic projections. The alien fleet was completely surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. "Sir," reported his chief engineer, Dr. Kyung-min, "all systems are performing within acceptable parameters. Alien defensive capabilities are proving inadequate against our technology. Casualty reports: human losses are minimal. Alien fleet. Strength is down to approximately 60% and falling rapidly." Ji-hoon nodded with grim satisfaction. The technology gap was even wider than humanity had hoped. 15 years of focused military research combined with the lessons learned from galactic technology had produced weapons that were simply superior to anything the Council possessed. "Phase 2 is ready for implementation," Kyung-min reported. "Not yet," Ji-hoon replied. "Let them understand the full scope of what they're facing first." Admiral Zixthar's fleet was dying around him, but he refused to accept defeat. The crystalline admiral had commanded fleets for 3 centuries. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. He would not be defeated by a species that had barely learned to leave their home planet. "All remaining ships, form up on my position," he ordered. "Concentrated assault on the human homeworld. If we can break their planetary defenses, we can still win this." It was a desperate plan, but Zixthar had seen desperate plans succeed before. If his remaining 20,000 ships could punch through Earth's defenses, they could force a human surrender. The alien survivors gathered into a tight formation and began their assault run toward Earth, their remaining weapons charged for one final devastating attack. They never reached their target. The human fleet that had emerged from beyond Jupiter moved to intercept them. These weren't the primitive ships that alien intelligence had cataloged. These were vessels that had been designed specifically to fight galactic-level warfare, incorporating every lesson humanity had learned about alien technology and tactics. Captain Wu Jin commanded the lead human battle group from his flagship, the New Soul. His ship alone carried more firepower than most alien fleets. Around him, hundreds of similar vessels prepared for combat. "All ships, this is Admiral Wu Jin," he broadcast. "Weapons free. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moved with precision and coordination that seemed impossible. They fought as a single organism, each vessel supporting the others in perfect harmony. Alien weapons that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia proved inadequate against human shields and armor. Human weapons, designed with 15 years of alien technology research, cut through Council defenses like they were made of paper. But the most shocking aspect was the tactics. Human commanders fought with a creativity and ruthlessness that alien military doctrine couldn't match. They used the environment, turning asteroids into weapons and exploiting gravitational fields for tactical advantage. Within an hour, Admiral Zixthar's fleet was reduced to scattered survivors. His own flagship, the mighty Eternal Light, drifted, powerless in space as human ships surrounded him. A communication channel opened, and President So-young's face appeared once again. "Admiral," she said pleasantly, "I believe you came here to remove humanity from our home. How is that working out for you?" Zixthar's crystalline form had turned a deep blue, the color of defeat among his people. "This is impossible. No species has ever achieved such military capability so quickly." "You made the same mistake every galactic power makes," President So-young replied. You assumed that peace makes a species weak. You forgot that some species achieve peace through strength, not submission. Around the crippled alien fleet, human ships maintained perfect formations. Their weapons remained trained on the survivors, but they held their fire. You have a choice, Admiral, the President continued. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting, and discover what happens when humanity stops being patient. For the first time in 3 centuries of military command, Admiral Zixthar found himself completely outmatched. The fleet he had brought to crush humanity lay in ruins around him. The humans had not only defended their home, they had demonstrated military superiority that redefined galactic power. But even as he prepared to surrender, Zixthar didn't understand the full scope of what humanity had planned. The battle for Earth was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, humanity's hidden agents were receiving their activation signals. The time for hiding was over. Phase 2 was about to begin. While the remnants of the Galactic Council fleet drifted helplessly in Earth's solar system, a different kind of battle was beginning across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, hidden signals reached human agents who had waited years for this moment. The real war was just starting. Agent Haywan stood in the crowded marketplace of Vorthak Prime, the serpentine species' homeworld. For 5 years, she had lived here as a simple trader, selling Earth goods to alien customers. Her modified appearance and careful mannerisms had convinced everyone that she was a Terran merchant seeking profit. No one suspected that she was, actually, a trained intelligence operative. The activation signal reached her through a quantum communication device hidden inside what appeared to be a simple jewelry pendant. After 5 years of waiting, her time had come. Around her, the Vorthak capital city buzzed with activity. News of the fleet's attack on Earth was spreading, and the serpentine beings coiled with excitement as they discussed humanity's coming destruction. They had no idea that their own world was about to change forever. Haywan made her way through the winding streets to a specific address, a warehouse in the industrial district. Inside, she found 12 other merchants and workers who had received the same signal. They were all human agents, their appearances modified to blend in with various alien species. Phase 2 is active, announced Agent Taemin, who had been posing as a Nexari crystal trader. Our orders are to assist the local resistance movement and prepare for liberation operations. The truth was that the Vorthak, like many council species, ruled through fear and oppression. Their serpentine aristocracy controlled vast slave populations of other species. For years, these oppressed beings had dreamed of freedom, but lacked the means to fight back. That was about to change. Agent Jin Woo had spent 3 years working in the Vorthak weapons factories, learning their production systems and security protocols. I can shut down their armament manufacturing, he reported. Without weapons production, they can't support their forces or suppress uprisings. I have contacts in the slave quarters, added Agent Su-Yan. Thousands of beings who would fight if they had weapons and coordination. Haywan smiled grimly. Then let's give them both. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On Craxi Prime, Agent Dongmin had spent 4 years posing as a weapons instructor for the warrior caste. When his activation signal came, he was perfectly positioned to sabotage their military training facilities and arm their oppressed worker castes. On the Hive Queen worlds, Agent Song Yi had infiltrated the royal courts as a diplomatic aide. She now activated hidden communication networks that connected enslaved species across dozens of systems. On Nexari trading stations, Agent Minsu had built a smuggling network that could move weapons and supplies to resistance movements throughout the crystalline species territory. Every human agent had spent years building the perfect cover identity and establishing the contacts needed for this moment. Now, as news of the fleet's defeat at Earth spread across subspace communications, oppressed beings throughout the galaxy realized that the Council's power could be challenged. Back in Earth's solar system, General Wu Jin coordinated the liberation operations from his flagship. The human fleet had captured or destroyed most of the alien vessels, but this was just the tactical victory. The strategic goal was much larger. "Sir," reported his communications officer, Commander Yunji, "we're receiving confirmation signals from agent networks throughout galactic space. Phase 2 is proceeding on schedule across 43 systems. Resistance movements activating as planned. The Bektar slave rebellion on Vorthak Prime has begun. The Mex High uprising on Craxi worlds is spreading. The Crystalline Workers Union on Nexari stations is seizing mining operations." Wu Jin nodded with satisfaction. This had always been humanity's real plan. The battle at Earth was designed to destroy the Council's military power, but the true goal was galactic liberation. What about our supply operations? Transport ships are departing for resistance strongholds throughout the galaxy. Weapons, medical, supplies, and communication equipment are en route. President So Young had spent 15 years planning this moment. While Project Prometheus built Earth's defenses, Project Liberation had prepared for the aftermath. Humanity didn't want to conquer the galaxy. They wanted to free it. On Vorthak Prime, the uprising began at midnight local time. Agent Haywan led a team of human operatives and local allies in a coordinated assault on the planetary communication center. Their goal was to prevent the Vorthak government from calling for help or coordinating their defenses. The Serpentine Guards were taken completely by surprise. They had spent centuries suppressing rebellions through overwhelming force, but they had never faced enemies trained in human military tactics. The human agents moved with precision and coordination that the Vorthak couldn't match. Within hours, major cities across Vorthak Prime were in rebel hands. Weapons factories fell to coordinated strikes. Government buildings were occupied by freed slaves. The communication networks carried messages of liberation instead of oppression. Similar patterns repeated across the galaxy. The Council species had grown complacent after centuries of unchallenged rule. Their security forces were designed to suppress unarmed civilians, not trained military operatives supported by armed resistance movements. Admiral Zixthar watched the reports come in from his disabled flagship. His fleet was destroyed, his homeworld was in rebellion, and the galactic order he had served for 3 centuries was collapsing around him. "How?" he asked President So Young during another communication session. "How did you coordinate this? Across the entire galaxy?" The human leader smiled with what Zixthar was beginning to recognize as genuine warmth. "Admiral, you're still thinking like a conqueror. You assume we wanted to rule the galaxy ourselves. That was never our goal." "Then, what do you want?" "Freedom," So Young replied simply. "For ourselves and for everyone else. The galaxy has spent too long under the boot of empires and councils. It's time for something better." On the screens around Zixthar, reports continued to flood in. Vorthak Prime had fallen to rebellion. Craxi worlds were declaring independence. Nexari mining colonies were in revolt. Hive Queen territories were experiencing coordinated uprisings. "Your agents have been planning this for years," Zixthar realized. 15 years, President So Young confirmed. Every human who entered galactic space was either an agent or an asset. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every cultural exchange was part of the plan. The scope of humanity's deception was staggering. While the galaxy had seen humans as primitive newcomers seeking their place among advanced civilizations, Earth had actually been conducting the largest intelligence operation in galactic history. "But the cost," Zixthar protested. "The chaos. Billions will die in these uprisings." President So Young's expression grew serious. "Billions were already dying under Council rule, Admiral. They were just dying quietly, out of sight of the powerful. At least now they die fighting for something better." The human transport ships reached the rebellion zones within days. These vessels had been disguised as the evacuation ships that alien intelligence had tracked leaving Earth. In reality, they carried weapons, supplies, and military advisors for the liberation movements. Agent Haywan watched the first human supply ship land on Vorthak Prime with tears in her eyes. After 5 years of watching the serpentine aristocracy brutalize their slaves, she finally had the tools to fight back. The weapons that came off the ship were simple but effective designs that could be manufactured locally once the rebels controlled industrial facilities. The medical supplies would save thousands of lives. The communication equipment would coordinate resistance across star systems. But most importantly, the ship carried a message from Earth. Humanity stood with all oppressed beings in their fight for freedom. On dozens of worlds, the pattern repeated. Human agents emerged from deep cover to lead liberation movements. Transport ships delivered weapons and supplies. Resistance networks that had been building for years suddenly had the coordination and resources they needed. The Galactic Council's power structure, built over centuries of careful oppression, began to crumble in a matter of days. General Wu Jin studied the tactical reports with growing satisfaction. "How many systems have declared independence?" 73 and counting, reported Commander Yunji. "The rebellion is spreading faster than our most optimistic projections." Council response? Minimal. Most of their fleet was destroyed here at Earth. The remaining ships are scattered and can't coordinate an effective response. "Then it's time for Phase 3, Wu Jin decided. Across the galaxy, a new message began broadcasting on all frequencies. It wasn't a demand for surrender or a threat of conquest. Instead, it was an invitation. President So Young appeared on screens throughout galactic space, speaking directly to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. "To all species in the galaxy," she began, "humanity extends an invitation to join us in building something new. Not another empire or council, but a true alliance of free peoples." The message that followed would reshape galactic civilization forever. The message from President So Young reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. On worlds where rebellions raged and on peaceful planets where beings watched in amazement, the same words echoed across space. Humanity was offering something the galaxy had never seen before. True partnership between equals. On Vorthak Prime, the serpentine aristocrats who had survived the initial uprising huddled in their palace fortress, watching their world burn around them. Chancellor Velnash, who had demanded humanity's surrender just weeks ago, now found himself trapped in his own capital as freed slaves celebrated in the streets. Agent Haiwan stood before the palace gates with a crowd of liberated beings from a dozen species. In her hands, she held a communication device connected directly to Earth. "Chancellor Velnash," she called out, "President So Young wishes to speak with you." The gates opened slowly, and the serpentine leader emerged with his remaining guards. His purple scales had dulled with stress, and his yellow eyes darted nervously at the crowd surrounding him. "What do you want, human?" he hissed. "Your rebellion has destroyed everything we built here." President So-young's voice came through the communication device, calm and steady. "Chancellor, I want to offer you the same thing I'm offering everyone else. A chance to be part of something better. You expect mercy after this chaos?" "I expect justice," So-young replied. "But justice doesn't have to mean revenge. Your people can choose to join the new galactic community as equals, or they can continue to fight for an empire that no longer exists." Around the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. The old order was crumbling, but humanity wasn't trying to replace it with another empire. Instead, they were building something unprecedented, a voluntary alliance of free worlds. Dr. Ji-hun coordinated the transition from his command center in the moon. The task was enormous, helping dozens of worlds establish new governments, coordinating aid shipments, and preventing the chaos of revolution from becoming permanent anarchy. "Status report," he requested from his aide, Dr. Kyung-min. 49 systems have formally requested membership in the proposed Galactic Alliance, Kyung-min reported. Another 37 are in transition but likely to join once their governments stabilize. Opposition? Decreasing rapidly. Most council loyalists are surrendering rather than fighting. The Craxi warrior caste is the main holdout. But even, they're losing support as their own people turn against them. And our agents? Transitioning from covert operations to open diplomatic roles. Agent Hae-won has been appointed as Earth's representative to the new Vorthak government. Agent Dong-min is helping establish military academies on former Craxi worlds. Ji-hun smiled. The plan was working even better than they had hoped. Humanity had prepared for years of guerrilla warfare and gradual liberation. Instead, the Council's power structure had collapsed so quickly that they were struggling to keep up with requests for assistance. Admiral Zixthar remained aboard his crippled flagship, watching his civilization transform around him. The proud Nexari Empire, which had dominated trade routes for millennia, was dissolving as crystal workers declared independence from the merchant princes. "Admiral," President So-young said during their daily communication session, "your people are asking for Earth's help in establishing a democratic government. Will you support this transition?" Zixthar's crystalline form had shifted to deep purple, the color of deep thought among his species. "You could have destroyed us completely. Why do you offer partnership instead?" "Because conquest creates enemies," So-young replied. "Partnership creates allies. Humanity learned long ago that it's better to have friends than subjects." "And if we refuse? If the Nexari choose to rebuild the old empire?" President So-young's expression grew serious. "Then you'll discover what happens when the galaxy's free peoples decide they've had enough of empires. Admiral, the age of galactic tyranny is over. The only question is whether your species joins the future or gets left behind in the past." On Earth, massive preparations were underway for the first Galactic Alliance Congress. Representatives from over 100 worlds would gather on humanity's homeworld to establish the principles of the new order. Foreign Minister Arin coordinated the diplomatic efforts from Geneva. The challenge was enormous. Species that had been enemies for centuries now had to learn to work together as equals. "The Bektar delegation has arrived," reported her assistant, Secretary Jae-yeon. "They're still traumatized from centuries of slavery under the Vorthak, but they're eager to participate. Housing arrangements? Completed. We've established separate quarters for each species with appropriate environmental controls. The methane breathers will be housed in the sealed domes, the high-gravity species in the mountain facilities. Translation. Systems? Fully operational. Every delegation will have real-time translation for all proceedings. Arin nodded. Earth had spent months preparing for this moment. The planet's infrastructure had been expanded to accommodate beings from hundreds of different worlds, each with unique requirements for atmosphere, gravity, and nutrition. But the most important preparation was philosophical. Humanity had to help species that had known only hierarchy and domination learn to cooperate as equals. Agent Song Yi, who had spent years infiltrating the Hive Queen courts, now found herself helping former slaves establish their own governments. The insect-like beings had never known individual freedom. They had lived in rigid castes controlled by their queens. "The transition is difficult," she reported to Earth Command. "The worker castes don't understand concepts like voting or representation. They're asking for new queens to tell them what to do." "Recommendations?" asked President So Young. "Gradual transition. Start with local self-government and work up to planetary democracy. It may take a generation, but they can learn." Similar challenges emerged everywhere. Species that had been bred for slavery had to learn independence. Warrior castes had to discover purposes beyond conquest. Merchant princes had to accept that. Their workers deserved representation. General Wu Jin watched the transformation from his flagship, now serving as a mobile command center for liberation operations. Human forces were spread across the galaxy, not as occupiers but as advisors and protectors. "Sir," reported Commander Yunji, "we're receiving a priority communication from the Outer Rim territories. 3 Council remnant fleets are gathering near the Void Stars. They appear to be planning a counterattack." Wu Jin studied the tactical reports. The forces were significant. Perhaps 10,000 ships commanded by die-hard Council loyalists who refused to accept the new order. Composition? Mostly Kraxi and Vorthak vessels with some Nexari support ships. They're being led by War Chief Grakton of the Kraxi and Serpent Lord Silmesh of the Vorthak. Their target? Unknown, but intelligence suggests they plan to attack Alliance member worlds to demonstrate that the new order can't protect its people. Wu Jin made his decision quickly. "Signal all human fleets. We're moving to intercept. The galaxy needs to see that the Alliance will defend its members." The final battle began in the empty space near the Void Stars, where ancient supernovas had left behind only radiation and debris. The Council remnant forces waited in formation, their ships dark against the cosmic background. War Chief Grakton commanded the largest Kraxi dreadnought ever built. The massive vessel bristled with weapons designed for planetary bombardment. Beside him, Serpent Lord Silmesh's flagship coiled through space like a living thing. "Today we restore the natural order," Grakton broadcast to his fleet. "Today we show the galaxy that strength rules, not these human delusions of equality." Human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 5,000 ships moved as one, their coordination so precise that they seemed to share a single mind. General Wu Jin opened a communication channel to the enemy fleet. "War Chief Grakton, you are hereby ordered to surrender. Your forces will be treated according to the laws of war and given the opportunity to join the new galactic community." Grakton's response was a roar of rage that translated as pure fury in every language. "Humans, you have destroyed everything noble in the galaxy. We will restore the Council's glory over your corpses." The battle that followed was brief but decisive. The human fleet had learned from the engagement at Earth. incorporating new technologies and tactics that made their previous victories look primitive. But more importantly, they weren't fighting alone. Ships from dozens of Alliance worlds joined the battle. Freed Bektar vessels flew alongside former Nexari trade ships that had been converted to warships. Worker caste fighters from the Hive worlds fought next to crystal cutters from the mining colonies. The galaxy's oppressed peoples had found their voice, and it spoke with weapons. Within hours, the last remnant of the Galactic Council's military power was scattered across the void. War Chief Grakton's flagship drifted powerless, its weapons silent forever. But the most important moment came when Serpent Lord Silmesh surrendered his vessel. As human marines boarded his ship, he asked to speak with General Wu Jin. "Human," he hissed through the communication link. "What will you do with us now? Execute us as examples?" General Wu Jin's response would be remembered throughout galactic history. "We're going to give you the same choice we gave everyone else. Join the Alliance as equals, or spend." 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council's ultimatum to humanity. The Geneva Conference Center, once home to Earth's old United Nations, now hosted the 5th Annual Galactic Alliance Assembly. Representatives from over 300 worlds gathered in the same halls where humans had once struggled to find peace among themselves. Ambassador Tae-ho, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the Alliance, stood at the podium where he had once faced impossible odds. The chamber around him buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages, translated in real time by systems that made communication seamless across species barriers. "The Alliance calls this session to order," he announced, and the Great Hall fell silent. Where once alien delegates had demanded humanity's surrender, now beings from across the galaxy worked together as equals. In the front section sat the Vorthak delegation, led by former Chancellor Velnash. The Serpentine leader had chosen to embrace the new order rather than fight it. His scales had brightened over the years as his people learned to live without slaves, discovering that voluntary cooperation produced better results than forced labor. The Economic Prosperity Report, Velnash reported when called upon, shows continued growth across all Alliance territories. Trade between member worlds has increased by 400% since the formation of the Alliance. Behind him sat representatives of the former slave species, Bektar, Mexhi, and dozens of others who now governed themselves. Their delegates spoke with confidence born of freedom, no longer the cowering beings who had once served alien masters. Admiral Zixthar, now serving as the Nexari people's elected representative, presented the military report. His crystalline form had shifted to warm golden hues that reflected the contentment of his people. "Alliance Defense Forces report readiness at optimal levels," he announced. "However, we are pleased to note that no military interventions have been required in the past 18 months. The galaxy has found peace." It was true, after millennia of constant warfare between empires and species. The galaxy had achieved something unprecedented, genuine peace based on mutual respect rather than fear. President So-young, now in her second term as Alliance President, smiled as she listened to the reports. The transformation had exceeded even humanity's most optimistic projections. The galaxy hadn't just accepted freedom, it had embraced it completely. Dr. Ji-hoon, now Director of Alliance Technology Sharing, presented his report on scientific advancement. The exchange of knowledge between member species has accelerated technological development beyond our wildest dreams. Medical advances that would have taken centuries are being achieved in years. Clean energy systems are spreading to worlds that have suffered from pollution for millennia. The greatest success, however, was visible in the delegates themselves. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now worked together on joint projects. Former slaves sat beside former masters, not as subjects and rulers, but as equals, working toward common goals. Agent Haywan, now serving as the Alliance's Director of Transition Assistance, had helped dozens of worlds establish democratic governments. She watched the proceedings with pride, remembering the terrified beings she had helped liberate from Vorthak's slavery, who now served as confident leaders of their own peoples. The Sociological Integration Report, she announced when called upon, shows remarkable progress. 97% of member worlds have successfully transitioned to representative government. The remaining 3% are making steady progress with Alliance assistance. The session continued with reports from across the galaxy. Agricultural worlds shared new farming techniques that increased food production while protecting environments. Industrial planets exchanged manufacturing methods that reduced waste and pollution. Research stations collaborated on projects that benefited all species. But the most important moment came when Ambassador Tae Ho called for the traditional closing ceremony. 5 years ago, he began, the Galactic Council ordered humanity to yield our home. They believed that strength came from domination, that order required oppression, that peace could only exist through fear. The chamber listened in complete silence as he continued. They were wrong. Today, we see the result of a different philosophy. That strength comes from cooperation, that order emerges from justice, and that peace grows from freedom. On the screens around the chamber, images appeared from across the galaxy. Children of different species playing together on playground worlds. Scientists from dozens of planets working side by side in research stations. Artists collaborating on works that combine the aesthetic traditions of hundreds of cultures. The galaxy you see today exists because Earth smiled, Tae Ho continued. Not because we were naive or foolish, but because we refused to accept that domination was the natural order of things. Former War Chief Grakton, now serving as a rehabilitation counselor for other former council loyalists, stood to address the assembly. The massive Craxi had spent 3 years learning to channel his warrior instincts toward protecting the weak rather than conquering them. I once believed that strength meant taking what you wanted by force, he admitted, his voice carrying across the chamber through translation systems. Humanity taught me that true strength means using your power to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The transformation of beings like Grakton represented the Alliance's greatest achievement. Instead of executing war criminals or imprisoning them forever, the Alliance had offered rehabilitation and redemption. Most had chosen to embrace the new way. President So Young stood to deliver the closing address. 5 years ago, when the Council demanded our surrender, they asked the wrong question. They asked whether humanity would yield. The right question was whether the galaxy was ready to be free. Around the chamber, delegates from 300 worlds listened with the attention reserved for words that changed history. Today we know the answer. The galaxy was ready. It had been ready for thousands of years. It just needed someone to show them that freedom was possible. The applause that followed wasn't the polite acknowledgement of diplomatic protocol. It was the sound of beings who had found something they had never dared to hope for. A galaxy where every species, no matter how small or weak, had a voice in their own destiny. As the assembly concluded, delegates began to mingle in the reception halls. Conversations flowed easily between species that had once viewed each other as enemies or prey. Children from the diplomatic families played games that incorporated traditions from dozens of worlds. Admiral Zixthar approached Ambassador Te-Ho as the chamber emptied. "I have a question that has troubled me for 5 years," the crystalline being said. "Please, ask." That day on Proxima Station when we delivered the ultimatum, you smiled. Even facing the destruction of your species, you smiled. I never understood why. Te-Ho considered the question carefully. "Admiral, humans smile for many reasons, sometimes from happiness, sometimes from humor. But that day I smiled because I could see something you couldn't." "What?" "Hope," Te-Ho replied simply. "Humans smile when we have hope, even when everything seems impossible. That day, I had hope that the galaxy could become something better than what it was." Zixthar's form shifted to colors that indicated deep understanding. "And now?" Te-Ho looked around the reception hall, watching hundreds of beings from across the galaxy sharing food, stories, and laughter. Former enemies collaborated on projects that would benefit billions. Children who had never known oppression played. Games that combined traditions from a dozen worlds. "Now I smile because the hope became reality," he said. In the years since the liberation, humanity had kept its promise to the galaxy. Earth had become a symbol of freedom, but not through conquest or domination. Instead, it served as proof that even the smallest voice could change everything when it refused to be silenced. The secret of humanity's success wasn't superior technology or military might, though those had played their role. The real secret was something far simpler and more powerful. They had refused to accept that suffering was inevitable. Where other species had learned to endure oppression, humans had learned to fight it. Where others had accepted hierarchy as natural law, humans had insisted that all beings deserved dignity. Where others had found peace through submission, humans had built peace through justice. Dr. Ji-Hoon joined the conversation carrying a data pad filled with reports from across the galaxy. "The latest surveys show something remarkable," he announced. "Quality of life indicators have improved on every Alliance world. Crime rates are down, educational achievement is up, and technological innovation is accelerating. Most importantly," added Agent Hei-Wan, approaching with a group of young delegates from recently liberated worlds, "we're seeing the emergence of the first generation that has never known oppression. These children grow up expecting freedom as their birthright." The young beings, she indicated, were a mixed group, some humanoid, others decidedly alien in appearance. But they all shared something that had been rare in the galaxy for millennia. The confidence that came from knowing their voices mattered. As the reception continued into the evening, President So-Young found herself on a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. The same waters that had reflected human diplomacy for centuries now reflected the lights,